So the last time I had the chance to speak with His Holiness was in 2006 in a room of, it was about 14,000 women at the time. And His Holiness asked the crowd and said, women need to be involved in more influential positions in the world. You said the world will be better off because women have more warm-heartedness, they are more nurturing, they are more compassionate. How are we doing in the world? How are we doing? How have we done in those last 3 years? Are women making a difference in the world?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. He always says, I don't know, and then I push him and he goes, okay, well, I know a little bit. I'm like, the man has written so many books and he like reads all day, meditates, and he's like the smartest person. You do too now.
I think at least I'm quite sure, I think as a result of there are sort of conversation, and also many occasions in Europe and also America, I, on a number of occasions, you see, appealing people in general, particularly female, because of biological factor, female more sensitivity about others' pains and suffering. So our time is we need special effort for promotion of human compassion. In that respect, female should make a more important role. So perhaps sort of appealing these things, maybe more number of female may get more self-confidence and more willingness to do. That I'm quite sure. But real significance of that change, I don't know. So you should investigate.
I am. Well, there's a lot of women who have self-confidence, but they hit barriers, and people perhaps don't think that they can run companies or run countries or be who they imagine themselves to be. So what would you say to men who perhaps don't think that women can do all those things?
I think at least in India, one time Prime Minister, one lady Prime Minister, not necessarily, I think, more sort of making competition by mail, by through vote. So, Lady Indira Gandhi ji, of course, daughter of Pandit Nehru, that also makes some differences. But basically, herself shows ability and efficient. So ultimately, depend on yourself. More hard work and prove, you see, you can do more, then more voters will come.
Then more voters will come if you prove you can do hard work. You think so? Yeah.
I think that's the way. I think one of the greatness of democracy is, I think, the individual people, they show them ability, and I think nowadays maybe people more conscious about sincerity, truthfulness, honesty.
Yes.
I think sometimes you see people more attention about just ability. Nowadays, I think moral principle is also, I think, becoming more and more important factor.
Your Holiness, so many people feel that the qualities that are needed to succeed in business and politics are the opposite of compassion. That it's very tough out there, it's very competitive, it's, as they say in America, a dog-eat-dog world, and that if you lead with compassion, you won't succeed.
That, I think, the misunderstanding about compassion and meaning of compassion. I often used to make clear the compassionate practitioner, compassionate person, not necessarily be weak.
Not weak.
Not weak. Now, here we have to make distinction, the action and the actor. So as far as action is concerned, sometimes we need counter measure, and including a little bit harsh method. So in that respect, sometimes for immediate motivation, some anger also have a role. But then towards actor, always, a person always maintain compassion, sense of for the person. So there is no contradiction. Immediate motivation, little anger, and tough measure, harsh method. That does not mean you really feel anger towards the person.
Please
so that we can do.
How do we use our anger to get something done and then switch it to be compassionate to our neighbor?
So such case, real motivation is compassion. Then in order to bring more harsh method, immediate motivation, anger. That's the way.
Something that's always interested me about you, Your Holiness, is how you often talk about being able to be content and still outraged at social injustice. How do those two things coexist?
So this is just like this, as I mentioned earlier. Because of your serious concern about the well-being of the community or people, so these wrongdoings are very harmful. So because of your concern about the well-being of the humanity, so these wrongdoings, actually all these, I think carried by the people, or should they, mainly due to short-sighted, narrow-minded. They simply, seeing an immediate sort of area. So this wrong method or wrongdoing actually harmful ultimately themselves. But without knowing that, just too much sort of emotion, just immediate sort of benefit. So therefore, there is reason to feel sympathy or concern for these people. So with that kind of motivation, then a harsh word or criticism like that. So there's no contradiction.
No contradiction.
Actually, compassion means well-being of other. Caring for well-being of other. So anything which ultimately harmful, then you have to oppose.
Anything that is harmful, you have to oppose.
Anything that is harmful to the others' welfare.
To others' welfare, you oppose.
And yourself also. I often is telling people, if it's a mad dog coming, then if you sit, compassion. Foolish.
Foolish.
Oh, foolish.
Foolish, okay. Yeah. What do you do to the mad dog that's coming?
Oh, I think two ways. Either run away. One time in Nobulinga, so we had one, Lhasa, yes. That day we have some, because of the offering, some ritual, some monk, and including my two tutors also there. So we carry some sort of ritual things. And then at break, I returned to my own house. So when I coming, walking, I noticed one big dog, kuchili short.
A mad dog.
Without a leash.
Without a leash.
Without a leash, yeah.
Huh?
Coming at you.
No. So there I saw. Then I ran. So at the next sort of session, when I reached there, my two tutors laughing towards me, because they noticed I run so fast. Because that energy brought by fear. So according to scientists, when fear emotion come, then the blood, more blood goes to leg muscle in order to run. So I use that.
Your Holiness, what are you afraid of in 2009? What do you fear?
Lodinal.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 2008 Chanda March crisis in Tibet. So at that time, actually, afternoon 10th March, I received information from Lhasa, the Tibetan, some Tibetan already moving for demonstration. Then I immediately got some kind of the experience which occurred 1959 10th March. Feeling of anguish or helplessness and much worry, anxiety, like that. So that in recent years, that's one of the I think more serious concern. But fortunately, the disturbances of my sleep, no single day.
His Holiness was saying that unfortunately he did not have a single sleepless night.
But in terms of the future of the world, what is he afraid of? Is he afraid of us not being aware of our environment? Is he afraid of war? What does he worry about today, given the situation in the world? Is it poverty?
I think environment issue.
The environment.
And then of course the gap, rich and poor.
Poverty.
And those not only global level, but also the national level. This huge gap, and then those poor people really helpless. And then sometimes You see, there are sort of difficulties bring more frustration. Frustration creates sometimes anger. So then violence. So that's really sad.
There has been a lot of research done that says that one of the best ways to alleviate that gap and to deal with the poverty around the world is to empower young girls, to invest in young girls, empower them, educate them, do microlending for women. Do you believe in that, and will you make that part of your dialogue even into the new year and beyond?
You mean that?
The emphasis on young girls.
Yes, no doubt, yes. I haven't really detailed sort of knowledge about that, but maybe the female and sort of because of that take special care about their youngsters. So maybe, I don't know.
Maybe that's a good thing to talk about.
There's no doubt. That's good. Yes, that's right.
You like it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You,
But
you said when you were here, I guess the other day, you declared yourself a feminist.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What does that mean to you?
Huh?
What does it mean to you to be a feminist?
Not much differences. Whether you call feminist, whether you call Kasoda. The other days I mentioned whether you call me God King or living Buddha or demon, doesn't matter.
So let's go with the God, King, the Buddha, and the feminist. I think.
So I mentioned, you see.
I'm a supporter of women's rights. Those.
Because you see, I emphasize a special rule of the female. Now that very much relevant to today's world. So therefore, some people may describe me as a feminist. That I just mentioned like that. I don't know.
I think that's good that you declared yourself a feminist because it means that you believe that the qualities that are inherent in women can perhaps have a positive influence on the world, and that women should have all the same rights throughout the world. Do you think there'll ever be a female Dalai Lama?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That I always mentioned.
I know.
They actually, as early as '69, I officially stated that whether the Dalai Lama institution should continue or not up to Tibetan people. So that means that majority of Tibetan people feel the Dalai Lama institution is no longer relevant, and then this institution, I think 600 years, right? 6th century sort of tradition, and there's no problem. Because some people have the impression that the Dalai Lama institution is so important about Tibetan Buddhism. That's wrong. So then in case concerned people feel this institution should continue, should preserve, then the next question is how to succeed, right? What is the successor? How select the successor? There are also a different method, possibility. There are different methods. One I think quite reliable, quite safe sort of method is like the succession according to the Pope among the cardinal.
The system of choosing the Pope.
That's also very, very sound, very good. And then among Tibetan also, isn't that kind of a practice is already there. last several centuries, that kind of way is there. Then should people should choose the traditional way, then the selection or the choosing reincarnation. So in that case, in case the female Dalai Lama can be more sort of effective, more useful, then female Dalai Lama. Why not? And then also, in Tibetan tradition, there are some higher reincarnated Lama institution, actually female. I know one, I think 700-year-old institution of high reincarnated Lama, always female. So like that.
Do you think if there were to be a female Dalai Lama, she would be accepted?
Yeah.
By the other monks?
No, under certain circumstances, you see, the people, I think, as I mentioned earlier, you see, if the circumstances are such, the female Dalai Lama is more useful, then it will come. No problem.
No problem.
Some individual may resent. That's always happened.
Your Holiness, I say to my children all the time, you have to practice compassion, forgiveness, you can be successful, and also be known for being compassionate. And they always say to me, be an example of one famous person who's compassionate other than the Dalai Lama.
The late Mother Teresa, women. One example.
Mother Teresa.
Wonderful, wonderful lady.
Yeah.
Wonderful lady.
So we have two, you and Mother Teresa.
Yeah. I think because you see, people or media do not much pay attention. Otherwise, in these slums, India or Africa, in many places, I think there must be some people who are really sacrificing their own privilege or their own well-being in order to serve those helpless people. I think there are thousands.
I agree with you, and I'm sure everybody here has met people that they think are out there changing the world through compassion and through love and through peace. How do we get the media to pay attention to those people and to that story?
I'm not going to leave it there. I think personally, so therefore I always telling media people they should pay more attention, or they should pay equally attention about the positive things, not only just the negative.
You think the media should be encouraged to pay more attention or equal attention to people's positive traits? More balanced reporting.
Otherwise, you see, in the last several years, quite often, you see, some people ask me their anxiety about the future of humanity. So that means they have the impression or we human beings is so bad. So the world now becoming more doomed. So that impression happened because as in media usually, so all the pictures or televisions or news, all these negative things, killing, murder, or like that. So then people get the impression of humanity basically negative.
And do you feel it's the opposite? Are you optimistic about the world today?
Oh yes. Basically, I believe, not only just a belief, I think there's reasons. Basic human nature is more gentleness, more compassionate, because our life starts with compassion. Clear. In our blood, there is some kind of the ability to appreciate compassion, affection. So, reason or the indication is person, mental state, more compassionate, more compassion, more warm-heartedness. The stress reduce, blood pressure reduce, sleep better. So that means
Easier said than done.
So that means this body go very well with this peaceful mind, compassionate mind. Anger, hatred, according to some scientists, even you see, eating our immune system. So therefore, these negative emotion, destructive emotion, also part of our mind. Biologically speaking, and up to certain extent, these are necessary. Attachment brings the positive factor which is useful for our survival. So attachment is bring these things. Anger expel the destructive, any element which danger for our survival. So that's biological factor. In order to carry action, bring together or expel, we need motivation. In motivation level, now two things, attachment and anger. However, our life begins not by anger, but by attachment, love, loving kindness. So that's more, I think 24 hours, that's necessary. Anger, hatred, short period. Under particular circumstances, it develops. But generally, the compassion.
Except compassion for the sound man. Your Holiness, you've been here.
So therefore, compassion really works from the beginning up to death. At the time of death, a person knows now no longer usefulness of your friend, but still at that moment, the person surrounded by a friend who really loves you, who really shows you affection, then the dying person feels happy. So therefore, so basically, we human being, human nature, I believe, gentleness or compassionate. Then, I think the point is, our intelligence must be disposal of human affection. Then our life will become very good. But the mistake is, when we grown up, we neglect about these basic values and more attention about sophistication of the brain. That brain, like any sort of knowledge can be destructive or constructive. Knowledge itself, something neutral. So other factor, the knowledge guided by hatred, then destructive. Knowledge guided by loving kindness, then positive, like that.
Your Holiness, you've been here for 3 days talking to leaders from all over the world about compassion, a charter on...
Not all over the world.
Not all over the... They're not here from all over the world?
Kaza.
Well, from parts of the world, 3/4 of the world. California, I don't know. But what have you learned? What has surprised you? What did you learn in Vancouver?
Oh, yesterday I learned, yesterday in our meeting, I learned, or I very much impressed one Bangladesh gentleman. He start on a small level, on NGO.
An NGO.
Then is gradually national level. Then not only that, he exported his sort of expertise or his sort of experience to other countries. Oh, that's really wonderful, really wonderful. So one single person initiated, then eventually can be effect to, I think, millions of people. So that's wonderful. That I learned. Otherwise, I don't know. Of course, a short moment is very impressive. Is when people just talk. Actually, I always have this sort of attitude when meeting with people. Then some kind of education, learning. So each person. Or then yesterday, another person mentioned the last century. Over 200 million people killed. Then this morning here, the existing modern education is not adequate. These are, something very good. Very educational, yes, like that.
When we spoke in India, I went to visit His Holiness in Dharamsala, and I was struck by the school for Tibetan children, that instead of putting children in a timeout, they have peace corners in the school. And the teacher, I saw a child misbehaving, and she said, "You're going to the peace corner." I said, "What's the peace corner?" And she said, "That's where we send children to reflect on their behavior, but we try to get them to reflect in a peaceful way."
I see.
Yeah. That's your philosophy. Well, that's what they told me anyway, but I thought that you talk a lot all over the world, how important it is to encourage children
Again,
in
not
school.
all over the world.
Not all over the world. I was just playing with you. But to encourage children's emotional well-being in school, that in fact makes them feel calmer, happier, more empowered. You're a big believer in that.
Yes. Whenever I meet some young people, I always give them hope and self-confidence and importance of these people. That's important.
I read a very interesting statistic the other day, Your Holiness, that last year in the United States there were 4,000 books published on happiness. 4,000 books.
Oh.
And that women in particular were less happy than they had been in the 70s. So we're buying more books on happiness, trying to get happier, and we're getting unhappier. Why do you think that is?
있고.
We need to research. I don't know.
You always told me it's very simple. Just concentrate on within, make yourself okay with yourself, and everything else will fall into place.
Yes, sir.
You told me that.
That's right. Peace, firstly, start within ourselves. Then that creates certain sort of atmosphere. Then other people also, I think, get some feeling, some vibration, including animals. So I often used to ask audience, or including some professors, I think last year, I think in Oxford, I met some talk with some people and some professors of that great famous universities, some professors. So I asked them one question, that in species of mammals, including these insects, on what level their brain have the ability to appreciate others something because of that, or affection. So because it seems to me mosquito don't have that kind of ability. Dogs and cats and many birds also have the ability. So looks mosquito and such sort of small insects seems to see no ability. So I'm wondering what level, what size of brain have the ability. So no answer. So that also one field to investigation.
Always much investigation. Finally, Your Holiness, some people here were talking to me about the need to rebrand the word compassion. Do you think we need to explain to people in a different way what compassion is so that they can put it into effect in their lives today?
I think as far as the Tibetan word is concerned, not necessary to that. But English, I think that's those, because of those are the English expert. I don't know.
It's one of those things you know it when you see it.
저도 그러면 직디 신남 유한도 compassion's represent just pityness really do. Yes, usually when I give the explanation or when I give talk about compassion, and sometimes I just make the definition of compassion. So it necessitates some kind of explanation. So if we find one word without this explanation, this is something because of the correct meaning. Yeah? That's good. That's simpler. But I don't know.
You do too now. So I want to thank you, Your Holiness, because I know that there are going to be several women that are going to come out here, and you're going to talk about the role of women in peace, in promoting peace from a compassionate place, and what role women can have on bringing our world to a more peaceful place. Do you know something about that? Yes? You have something to say about that?
Yeah. Then let us discuss
Yes.
later.
Thank you so much for talking.